Hello. So, like Amber said, my name is Nicole. I've been blogging since 2010 and pretty seriously since 2013. And it's been an awesome ride. I love it. And I love being able to work with all of you guys as well. In 2014, I kind of stumbled into a position at CoSchedule, which is one of the tools I'm going to be talking about today. I was an avid user of that tool before I went to work there, and it totally changed the way I blogged completely. So I'm a big fan. Last year I came to work at Mediavine, which has been amazing. But I'd love to share with you guys some things that work for me and my own workflow. Because like Amber said, I'm very busy. I have a full-time job and a part-time job, and I also have a family. And she wasn't joking. I have 11 million kids. There's 7. When we go out, I definitely see people all the time doing the 1, 2, like, what? So I'm busy because there's 3 toddlers there too. So it's bananas at my house. I'm never not multitasking, ever, which can be good and can be bad. But for this, I really put this into practice a lot. I have to stay organized, and I have to keep lists, or things just completely fall off my radar. When you've got, 14 to-do lists and 15 children and a million different jobs to do every day, you have to really be focused and intentional about your planning. So, what I'd recommend is sitting down when you're trying to define your workflow and optimize it, and writing a list of your ideal blog posting schedule. Now, this is mine. I'm not saying this is ideal for everyone, because it certainly is not. But if I had a perfect world and unlimited time to devote to this, that's what I'd be doing. 5 posts a week, working at least 2 weeks ahead. Social media pre-scheduled before the post is even published for at least 6 months. I would want my posts submitted to all the sharing sites within a week, internally linked to other content, at least 3 or 4 posts the same day that they publish. And I would also want to submit posts for Roundups daily. Now, when you sit down and make your list, really take into account your ideal goals and how you want to get there. So the next list you're going to make is not as fun. It's your actual blog posting schedule. Mine is not great right now. The last few months have been pretty crazy. So right now I've been averaging 2 to 3 posts a month that are mostly backdated. Definitely I post yesterday. I've scheduled social media a couple weeks after I publish a post a lot of times, because honestly right now just hitting publish feels like a major accomplishment. Sometimes things fall off the radar, and this workflow really helps me to not let that happen. So I'm not doing so hot right now with this workflow. So this is a realistic schedule. Once you have your ideal schedule and your ideal workflow and promotional stuff figured out and your actual, you want to sit down and really think, what can I actually realistically do? Because we all know when we make that ideal schedule, it's not all going to happen. It's just not. So for your goals, I like to set realistic goals that I can actually accomplish. And this is the one you're really going to want to work through when you are figuring out which tools you want to use for your own site to streamline and save yourself some time. So once you have your lists, you can take a look and really focus on things that you can save time using tools with, and then you can plan around the other stuff that you have to do manually. Like the internal linking, that has to be done manually. There's not really a great tool for that that is as smart as you will be about linking within your own content. But some of this other stuff, the blog posting, publishing a week or scheduling a week in advance, the social media pre-scheduling, that kind of stuff can all be streamlined with a few really simple tools. So this is my favorite feature of CoSchedule right now. It's the social templates. It literally allows me to schedule months and months of promotions in 2 minutes for each blog post. It's amazing. I don't see a lot of people using this in the community yet, so I really would like to get the word out on this one because it saves hours and hours and hours off of every blog post. But before you can set up your social template, you have to understand social helpers. So the templates are a little bit hidden. How many of you right now are CoSchedule users? Have any of you else used it but don't any longer? Or have you seen it? Yeah? Okay. So this is where the social helpers are located. They're right over there. They're kind of hidden. So if you don't know they're there, they're very easy to miss. All right. So, social helpers. This one was kind of hard for me to wrap my brain around even when I was working at CoSchedule and supporting them because there's not really any other tools that are using this kind of workflow or code to streamline things that I've found. So the basics of what a social helper is a tiny short code that you can program to put whatever you want in its place. So it can be text, it can be photos, or it can be video. So what I do is, there's some examples over here. I set up one social helper for the hashtag for each post. I set up a couple of different tweets so I can recycle through those and I'm not posting the exact same messaging every time because we all know that our readers do not like to see that. I also create a pin description, a Facebook description. Oftentimes those are the same thing. And then I go through and set up the ideal photo. So with this, there's just some examples of the particular codes that I use. You can have these be whatever you want, whatever makes sense for you. They're totally customizable, which is great because they fit into whatever workflow you want to put into place. So this is an example of a social template. When you first go to create your first social template, you want to make sure you're creating blank social helpers because these will be applied on a post level, and what you're creating is something that can be applied to any blog post ideally, because I'm sure most of us have a specific schedule we like to promote our content. Day 1 to Facebook page and Twitter and our best Pinterest boards and sharing to groups that we're the admins of. We want to get our new content out there. But the ideal thing here is that you can set it up however you'd like. So this video right here is about 2 minutes long, and it's going to show you how I'm pre-scheduling all of my social media using one of my social templates in under 2 minutes. And it's using custom hashtags, it's using custom messaging, it's using custom photos, and they pull directly from your WordPress blog. So you don't have to manually upload things. You don't have to manually go and grab the permalink. You can pre-schedule these because CoSchedule will automatically know when it's published and promote it with the correct permalink. So if something changes, if you want to tweak the title, if you want to tweak the slug, you don't have to worry about your social messages. They're going to go out with the correct information because you're using these helpers that update dynamically. So you can see here, even with my not super fast hotel Wi-Fi, I'm going through this process pretty quickly here. The longest part of this is creating the unique messaging, but the benefit of this is that you only have to do it once. So anytime I go back to this post, the pressure cooker, beer braised steak with onions, I can use those same social helpers again, and I don't have to come up and copy and paste. I don't have to come up with new messaging. I've got it right there and available. And you can see on the side there a little bit of the image helpers in action. I'm doing a unique picture for Facebook because I like that one to be horizontal. I'm doing one image with text on it, a long pin, and one image without text on it. Yes. It's amazing. If you run a WordPress blog and you install CoSchedule, there's a plugin, and it automatically syncs with your blog. So all I had to do there was arrow through to find the photo that was in the blog post that I wanted to push out. And you can also, if you don't want to put like an Instagram-sized photo in your blog post itself, you can upload it one time to the social helpers and reuse it over and over again in your messaging. That's amazing, especially for those of you that maybe want to post a long pin but don't want to put it in your actual blog post. You can upload it as a social helper and send it to Pinterest with the correct link, and so the long pin is out there in Pinterest without having to take up a bunch of space on your blog. Let's see, can you switch to the next slide for me, please? Thanks. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk about regarding CoSchedule is their Riku feature. And it's fairly new, and I've been using it quite a bit. All of these greenish messages on here are social messages that I had shared before previously on my blog. So I had created those individually using CoSchedule. Some of them were created with the templates, but you can go into your posts on CoSchedule and toggle a little switch, and it'll add it to your Riku bucket and automatically fill in the gaps in your schedule. And you can set specific limits. So if you only want Riku messages going out twice a day, you can set it to only go out twice a day. If you don't want to flood a Facebook group with a bunch of recycled messages, you can make sure you're only sending one a day to any specific group that you're connected to. It's super handy. It's not necessary though. Like, I would totally use CoSchedule without Riku if I didn't want to pay for the upgrade for that. It's about twice as much every month to have Riku than it is to not have Riku. So if it's a matter of cost, I would suggest starting out with just using the social templates, because that in itself is super powerful. You can schedule out a year, 2 years of content if you want to go out on a specific schedule relative to your post dates. And it's really awesome. I like being able to schedule all my messaging in 2 minutes. That's crazy to me. Used to take me a long time. Also with CoSchedule, if you want to share one of your blogging friends' content, you can go to their site, you can hit the CoSchedule Chrome extension, and it's going to automatically pull up their link and their photo. You can tab through to share the photo you want to share, and there's a little toggle button in that creation window that will let you add their posts to Riku as well. So if you want to continue sharing that content, you can do so automatically. Okay. Another thing I love CoSchedule for, and I'm almost done with the CoSchedule talk, is organizing sponsored work. It's amazing. I never know which direction I'm going when I have several different campaigns going on. Everyone has a different process. Every network you work with sends things a different way. They want to get them back in a different way, and it can get really overwhelming and really confusing. So I use my CoSchedule calendar extensively to keep everything in one place. I can save the campaign hashtags using those social helpers, so I make sure I'm sending the correct ones every time. I upload the directions. Like if I get emails with the post directions in it, I save the email as a PDF and I upload it right to my CoSchedule comment section. It's amazing. And another thing you can do is for brands that want to draft before the post is live, you can share a live example through CoSchedule by using their text editor. You can create your whole post in there if you'd like, and then you can share a link that will give them a web page that is showing them the content. And it's going to come up in just a second here. I love this feature because it's so easy to just send someone a link and they can see this live version that the public can access. And it's very handy. I've used it quite a bit in working with several different networks that require the draft in advance of the actual post. So there's the public link. Only people with that link can see it. And it's going to give you an example. I'm entering that in. And there's your live post example. And they have the option to download an HTML or PDF version of that. There's another link to it. It'll include your whole post. And then once it's approved, there's an option to convert that post to WordPress so you can get it published on your site. All right, the next tool I use quite a bit, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with, is Tailwind. And Tailwind is amazing for not only promoting your own content, but for finding outside content to promote as well. And there's a really fast way that I schedule my whole week's worth of outside Pinterest promotions in less than 20 minutes. So I have a folder on my Chrome browser that is content sources. And I put the blog post, the blog board on Pinterest for all of the sites that I want to help promote. And I save them in one folder in my Chrome bookmarks bar. So when I want to go to promote those and schedule my outside content, I open all of those in a window and I quickly go from one to the next using this Tailwind extension. And I can schedule, this video is 2 minutes, and I managed to schedule like 70 pins in 2 minutes. It's amazing. And you can always add to that bookmarks folder. You can, the possibilities are really endless. I have a big list. And it opens. And even with the not super fast hotel Wi-Fi, which slowed me down a little bit, I was still able to schedule a bunch of pins really fast. And that's super important for me because I like sourcing good content, but sometimes it takes a long time. So if you just go through the process once of bookmarking that specific board that has all your recipes on it. And if you don't have one of those, I highly suggest getting one because it's the best way for other bloggers to quickly see all of your content in one place and to be able to share it really quickly. So in this video that's going on here, I just quickly buzzed through like 3 or 4 different tabs. Normally I would go through the whole list and it takes about 20 to 30 minutes, and by the end of it I have 100, 200 pins going out. And then I just go back to my Tailwind queue and hit the shuffle button so it's not all the same blogger being promoted in a row, and it fills in my Tailwind gaps. And you can schedule these to specific boards, but for the sake of time saving, I usually schedule them to the same board by using that schedule to all at the very top. And I post to a lot of my own not super niche boards. I have best recipes or my favorite bloggers, and that type of board performs really well for me. And it allows me to schedule a range of different content without having to go individually through each pin to find the right board for it. I do that occasionally when I have more time, but when you're crunched for time, this is a great way to really fill up your Tailwind queue quickly. And I also love the tribes feature. I know a lot of you guys have utilized those, and that's also a great way to source content. You can go to the next slide. Thanks. So the other tool that I use to save myself a ton of time is the Canva for Work integration. It costs about $12.95 a month, but it allows you to save your brand colors, save a folder of all your brand logos. You can save templates, so if you want to create a pin or a collage the same way every time, you have access to it right there, and you don't have to create that stuff from scratch. It's basically like dragging and dropping your images, and you can keep your brand really consistent, which is important. So, also the magic resize button. If you guys have not tried that out in Canva, you are missing out. It allows you to create social media account specific sizes from one image, and it keeps all of the lettering and the fonts and your layout. You do have to tweak the sizes a little bit afterwards, but it's so much faster than going in and doing all of those from scratch. And here's just a little screenshot of what Canva does. I love the brand color palettes. I was constantly going back to my blog and having to use like a color picker to pick out my brand colors, which is not ideal. It saves your fonts. You can upload your own fonts, which is fantastic. I am a font nerd wannabe. I'm learning lots. And your logos are here, and it's very much, for me, worth the money. So what does all this cost? That's what we want to know, right? So a CoSchedule plan without Riku is $39 a month. You get a discount if you pay annually, but for the sake of this, I just worked out monthly pricing. If you want to add the Riku, it's an additional $39 a month. The Tailwind plan is $15 a month. That gives you 400 pins. If you pay an annual subscription, you get unlimited pins, which I would definitely suggest doing because 400 in a month is not a lot for a lot of us. Canva for Work is $12.95 a month. So in total, between $67 and $106 a month for these three tools. But it saves me so much more than that. 8 to 10 hours a week I save, depending on how many posts I'm putting out in a week, just by utilizing these tools. And that's way worth the money for me. Does anyone have any questions about any of this?
My question is, does CoSchedule work with other platforms beside WordPress?
They don't directly integrate with other platforms yet. You can still use CoSchedule, but it will involve manually adding in your permalink and some photos. So it takes an extra couple of minutes per blog post. But you can still utilize all of the features that are not WordPress specific. So the social templates would still work great. You just plug in the permalink into a permalink social helper, and it would use that over and over again. That one, if the permalink changed, you would have to remember to manually go back and change that though, because it doesn't have that direct connection with your site. So Facebook definitely does not prefer third-party schedulers. You will get better results posting directly to Facebook. For me in particular, I've found that photo-type posts perform about 10 times better than link-type posts when going through CoSchedule. So I post a lot of photo-type posts only, and I'm finding I get decent engagement then.
Facebook?
You can. CoSchedule now has a video social helper feature, and it lets you upload that video just like you would a photo, and then you can use the shortcode to insert that into the post. We're keeping Gretchen running today.
Have you tried other ones? I know there's many out there. Like I just signed up for Mass Planner, but haven't implemented it yet. And also like Meet Edgar is really popular. retreat chores. There's all sorts of stuff out there. Is there any other
Yeah.
that you recommend besides just CoSchedule, or is that your base?
That is my preferred one because it eliminates the manual work. I've heard great things about Meet Egger, and I've tried it a couple of times, and I don't get past the onboarding because I don't have time to manually set up all of that stuff. If you have time to do that, it can work very well. I just prefer this for the calendar view, for the drag and drop of it. If I want to reschedule something, I can just click it and drag it and move it to the day I want it, and then it's there. So I prefer those. I've not tried Mass Planner. I just signed up for a trial, so I'm going to be using that one. But I find it's hard for me to jump between tools a lot because some of these are pretty involved, and onboarding does take a little bit. So I've not wanted to jump off of the CoSchedule wagon as of yet. But I know their prices are changing, and there's some stuff going on around that, so I'm always keeping my eyes open for other things that work just as well. But I have not yet found one that has such a seamless WordPress integration and saves quite as much time.
That would show us what you just showed us, because I don't know anything about CoSchedule and wouldn't remember how to do what you just did.
CoSchedule has a massive library of help docs. I wrote most of them. That was super fun. A lot of them have changed since then, though, because they've done some redesigns and stuff. But it's very extensive, and it's pretty easy once you get it connected. There's also a post on my site, a couple of them, with some tutorials on how I organize the sponsored work, how I set up my social templates. It'll walk you through step by step of that process.